I talked so many times about these events that I became tired. It is ridiculous. So I was poisoned by the members of my family, all of them. I was sexually abused. I have proof to affirm that. I have tons of proof. I was beaten, brutally beaten when I was a child. I had a big scar on my head, and I never remember hearing. I don't remember an accident like that. They alleged that I fell from a broken bench, but that is not true, as I clearly remember what happened a long time ago, and this isn't one of them. I also have a scar below my my last lip, and so I do not remember those. I have so many pictures to show to support that. I heard them talking about me dying at the phone and being happy about it. I saw them poisoning me. They always cooked when I was away or sleeping. I woke up full of blood, covered in blood, bleeding through my nostrils, and having feelings of itchiness. Although I never did anything like that, I never took any drugs, willingly at least. I never hanged with dubious persons, and if I did, they assigned them to poison me. I have so many events to detail, so many proofs of that, and I think they issued life insurance on my name to profit off of my death, and maybe that was the primary reason they wanted me to die. I can show pictures of them. She was crying in this picture, and I was little, as it can be seen. There was no apparent reason to why she would be crying, unless she abused me in many ways that she herself had a lasting impact. She did such horrible things that had a long-lasting effect even on her mind. So that is consistent with my claims. I will also show my father, Iunian, who most likely raped me. I had this blank expression. They drugged me, they poisoned me many times, and they were very violent. As I said, they hit my head. I have a big scar on my head. I don't know if it was visible. He was also impressed, most likely by whoever shot the photograph, most likely my mother, and both of them were crying because of what they did to me. That's the trait of a psychopath. They also want to expose themselves as being hurt. They see themselves as the victims. It is unbelievable after what they did. This is another picture of the prostitute, my mother, Georgina. She cut the part of the photograph which showed her face because she was crying, and I also had this blank expression. I was abused, I was beaten at an age. I can't remember clearly what happened, but the fact is that I remember what happened when I was 4 years old, and it didn't happen then. So they hit me, they did that to me, they raped me also. So I had swellings in that area, and I never had any sexual interaction of any kind, no, or at least not one of those. And I had been cancer. I had been having oral cancer actually ever since I was 7 years old. I remember clearly that when I went to a dentist appointment, I underwent a dentist's appointment. She came with this after doing a medical image, a simple image exam for the root of the tooth. She said that it grew abnormally. So that's another thing for the cancer. I had infections developing at a spot all the time, and I still do have weird tissue there. And I've been having them, as I clearly remember, I've been having abnormally grown cells on my in my mouth, in my oral area, ever since I was about 7 years old. So I was at least, that means I was at least 5 years old when I contacted the HPV virus, which is sexually transmitted unless I was poisoned through secretions, sexual secretions, bodily secretions of them, or maybe even other persons beside them, as they always made funny remarks. And I also heard them, aside from being told that I liked to jump when I was a kid erratically, which is another lie, that I developed a medical condition that in which the organs are failing, cannot maintain their position. That is a lie. I was raped, I was sodomized, it turned out. And they made funny remarks. They talked about this with neighbors, that I must have a big radius, a big anus radius because of that, and many other such remarks. And they laughed about it. So I was also raped. I can show another picture. This is all she's my mother, Gheorghina, prostitute that committed many crimes. She was poisoning in this picture. And this is sexually arousing for them. It is arousing for them. Sexually attractive. So this is one of their fantasies. They also became very violent when I stayed with them while they cooked. So they wanted me to be away so they could poison them freely. They did that all the time, and they insisted. They became violent whenever I were to refuse drinking or eating from what they offered me. I have so many proofs, and he was also convicted in the past. He was also, he faced a sentence in prison. Many persons know, and he was also attending gurus, places and groups. So he was also involved into that. She was also a prostitute, and she did so many horrible things. One thing is certain: they tried to kill me, and they had the support of the policemen, the corrupt policemen and police women in this city. And also in Pitești, as I said, I was cut at randomly by Dr. Robert Rob. I have this paper, this document that is supporting, is backing up what I said. This is his signature. It can be clearly seen. That is his signature. And I can also show, I don't want to disclose anything, but I'm talking about my identity card number, but that is my name right there. It can be clearly seen. This is the hospital, Muntenia Medical Hospital in the city of Pitești. It is a neighboring city near Mioveni. The surgery lasted only a minute, during which he cut at random with a medical shaver after installing a local anesthesia. That was the last resort in his view, because I tried to convince him many times to do the surgery under local anesthesia. He refused that to the last moment. He implied that it has to be done only under general anesthesia. Why would he want a surgery that lasted only a minute, a surgery that would last only 1 minute, to be done under the general anesthesia, which takes more to install, to successfully do than the surgery itself? Why would he want that unless it was an attempt to kill me? And my brother, my little brother Christian, which is also a criminal. I don't have any sympathy for any member of my family or relatives or anyone regarding this and all of the things. So I was poisoned each time they entered my room, as I wasn't locking it in the past, and they poisoned my water bottles. With them do that. They did that with. I wanted to say that with them were also neighbors. Sometimes they entered freely in the house, and my father all the times he talked. He was talking all of the time with persons that prejudiced me, bullied me in the past, with no apparent reason, unless he has the answer. So he most likely issued a life insurance or something like that on my name, or is just simply mentally ill enough to have this resentment without a solid reason, and he was all of his life like that. So I showed the document. I will show it again. It has my name. That is the fake diagnostic that he came up with. He said I had a macrocele, but it wasn't true. I had cancerous cells. He cut at random to cause me complications, maybe instantaneous death because of bleeding. I fainted also. I sent an application to the European Court of Human Rights in France, in Cerex, in Strasbourg, and I received an incomplete number to check the status of my application. I had the phone call. I will show also the phone call with the ECHR's contact person, the European Court of Human Rights contact person. So this is the document that shows that I was attending the surgery and I had supposedly successfully done it, had it done on me, had it performed on the I will show the date. I don't want to disclose my personal number, but I will show the date in which it was done. It is on the, it was done in done in 2014. I can change the camera, so it is hard to make sure that it is also visible. As I said, on the 16th of October in 2014, it can be seen. The year can also be seen. So that's a case of malpractice. I can show again his signature. This is his signature. I will also show that's not so important. He alleged I had mucosilis. Those are formations retaining infectious liquids. That is a lie. I had cancer cells all of the time, and I have more of them. They multiplied, and also in distant areas, as well as in the sinuses of my nose. As I said, I woke up when I was about 16 years old, bleeding so much through my nostrils. I was covered in blood, and I had those itchy feelings, and my mother was so indifferent, so cold about it. He was actually happy, I remember, when I was at a distance. I was not so close to her. She laughed or made a funny remark about it. So she has to be blamed about that also. I have cancer in that area. I also have cancerous cells there, and I had itchings. So she caused my death, to be honest. So I have oral cancer ever since I was 7 years old. I remember, as I said, attending to dentists that returned some exams about showing the roots of some teeth that were that grew abnormally. That meant cancer. And another doctor also, when I was 16, my father, Iunian, which, as I said, is a pervert that was already condemned in the past. He was convicted to doing prison time, jail time. Many people talked about this, many persons. And he insisted on attending to that doctor, to scheduled visits by him. And I remember having strong pains after having some teeth extracted, removed, and the roots. He also removed the roots of them. He said that I had 2 roots grown in the same channel, and that means cancer. It is another red mark for cancer. That is a mutation that is specific to the cancer. I also had some hairs on my hand that just have an abnormal texture that is striking out. They have a weird consistency and weird color. They do not look as, and they grew in a strange area on the upper part of my hand. That is another mark for cancer. I've been having them since a long time. I sent the application. In the application I sent to the SEDEX court, I said that I had cancer since I was 16 or 15. But as I said, I actually remember having cancerous cells in my mouth ever since I was 7 years old, but I never attributed them until recently. It wasn't until recently when I found out that those were also cancerous cells. So I've been having them ever since I was a child. I never had any sexual interaction that would cause me to contact the HPV virus or anything like that. So I was very, very cautious to my hygiene routine. So this is not my fault. As I said, I also do not remember failing or anything like that caused me that big scar on my head. I will show it again. I don't know if that is visible. I can't verify, but it can be seen. It is not insignificant regarding the size. And as I said, I also have one below my lower lip. I also do not remember obtaining that because of me, so it happened at a very, very early age. As I said, I have many, many proofs of what they did and that they are deranged. As I said, I said that in the past about being poisoned so many times it happened. I remember when I was a kid and ate from a cake that she came up with that had a weird taste, and all of the time those had weird tastes. She invented, she made up all of those, she made up a lot of dubious stories which were supposed to inform me about what I've been through as a mockery, as something to further upset me. So she is that much of a psychopath. She has to be charged with killing me. She poisoned me. She beat me. She has beaten me. I have a lot of proofs about that. My father worked in Italy, Iunian, the ex-convict, which is an alcoholic, deranged person. She most likely created a life insurance on my name, and that's why she insisted on me eating and drinking from him, so she could poison me. He became that was my mistake. So he would obtain money from my death. So he had this benefit. As I said, I showed pictures with them. Those are suggestive enough, even for the most paranoid person. So this is a more recent picture of my father, of the alcoholic male, which was convicted in the past. He was caring for a person. That was the alleged job that he had. He also he benefited from money given for his kids ever since he left for Italy when I was in the 7th grade. And ever since I attended high school and almost finished it, but I had cancer complications and I wasn't able to finish it. That is also because of him, as I worked enough, as I said. I would say that it was enough, and I like to work, and I still like to work. So I will provide more proof as to why they are disturbed. Even in each picture they were disturbed and had that scary expression. They stared and made funny faces. As I said, they were deranged and they are still deranged. I have a lot of proofs. I have to detail more of them, but I've done this for so many times, and it has been censored on another application. I haven't managed to upload it without being altered, so it wasn't clear. It hadn't a clear audio anymore. So I have to go to start again, and it is time consuming and is requiring efforts. I am sure that my mother also put the secretions of other prostitutes, as they kept harassing me. They stalked me. for years, and I never knew them. I awoke to see them. I'm talking about the members of my family, and it is very probably that also their friends entered when I was sleeping in my room and observed me. As I said, I awoke to see them staring at me many times. I'm talking about my family members, and they never had a solid reason, a viable reason to want to explain their presence at that time in the room I slept alone. So another thing, I dreamed so many times. I had those dreams disturbing that I was suffocating, and so many pains during my sleep when my room wasn't locked, when I wasn't locking my room door. And I have proof now that they entered and tried to suffocate me. As I said, I was also bleeding, I remember, with no apparent reason. I'm not taking drugs. I never did that willingly, and I would have never been able to do so, at least such drugs to cause me that. They have to be punished. And another thing, when I visited my older brother, Iunian Jr., in Bucharest, in the capital city, he worked for his cousin there. At least that's what he said. And he was in the company of some drug addicts. He is also one, and he was also a drug addict. He offered me some laced cigarettes. Those were laced with synthetic drugs. And I asked him multiple times about the substances with which those were filled. And he assured me that none of them contained such dangerous substances. I was aware enough about them, and I would have never consumed such thing. I thought there was something legal in them. There was something not dangerous, not damaging. So I smoked, and I had a heart attack after. I awoke the next day confused, and I had the symptoms that follow a heart attack the 3 days after, even more than that. A week after that event, that episode, I felt dizzy, I had cold sweats, I had confusions, pains, and my sight was also damaged. But the worst thing happened when I was 17, almost 18. 17 and about 10 months, about like that. And in January of that year, I had most likely another stroke. At that time, as I said, I was 16 when I was drugged by my older brother. He is also a drug dealer. I don't have anything to do with him. That's what I talked about. I don't have anything to do with them, and this is not the main point of the video. The main point of the video is that although I proved the corruption of the authorities in my country, I haven't been compensated by the European Court or by anyone because of the malpractice cases that involved me, that prejudiced me. I haven't been compensated in any way because of them. And as I said, I have so many more to detail. That was not the only malpractice case that that case that the doctor Robert Robb had created. That event which involved him cutting me at random, and I bled so much. I was bleeding so much, and I awoke confused on a different bed, not on the surgery table. I was awake all of the time, so I know it only lasted 1 minute. Aside from being almost forced to undergo general anesthesia before a 1 minute so-called procedure, he also sedated me through xylene. That local anesthetic is also not recommended to be injected through a major artery. It is meant only for local use, as in a dental procedure, on a specific spots, but I had it injected on the major vein in my arm. So that is also not allowed. That is also a big mistake. They tested me for xylene to see if I was allergic to that substance. But as I said, as far as I know, that substance is used only on for small areas, not as a not to be injected in a major vein. That is clearly mentioned. Another thing, that wasn't the only case of malpractice. As I said, my condition worsened after that procedure, and I also paid it, of course. And I was attending so many CTs and IRMs. I lost my health. My health degraded faster, obviously, as I had radiations. I was exposed to much higher doses than a regular person is usually. So I haven't been compensated for that case of malpractice, but I also have another one. I was the victim of another one which happened to be even worse than this one. I was taken by force. I was forcefully hospitalized by the corrupt policeman in my hometown in Mioveni, just for having an argument with my mentally ill mother, which abused me, as I said, when I was a child, and also caused me so many problems as a teenager and as a young adult. So she is responsible for my condition. She is to blame because I have been dying ever since I was a child. With all of this in with all of these things in my favor, accusing them, they still had this, they were still allowed to enter by force in the house I lived for most of my life. They entered my room without a warrant issued. As I never saw one, they threatened me, they harassed me. They wouldn't even say that they were police officers when they started knocking at the door. And my mother called to the emergency number just because I knocked at the door of her room. So she is mentally ill. I wanted to get an item from her room, and she started calling to the emergency number. She also cut herself, most likely intentionally. He took a small knife which was used to cut bread. It had those margins that are only found in kitchen knives, small knife, not sharp, not long. So I wasn't attempting to cut her in any way. I just had it in my arm, and she was just not potent, not a real item. I would never use such thing, and that wasn't my intention. She took it from my hand, and she cut herself. I don't know if by mistake or if she planned to do that, but that was the only thing that damaged her, as I only retained her from opening the door to the corrupt policeman. That was the only thing I did to her. And then I was handcuffed and taken to the station. I was waiting there, I was marked there, and then they forcefully hospitalized me in a mental hospital. And they threatened me, they forced me to sign that I agree with the hospitalization. And I was never violent. I never talked any abnormal thing. I only talked when I was asked. So there was no reason for a corrupt policeman to consider that I was mentally ill. They only did that to most likely get money from my room. I had the equivalent of approximately 700 euros, and once I returned from the mental hospital where I suffered another stroke. This was the worst of all of them. I had my eyes rolling in the back of my head for more than half an hour. So that was a genuine, dangerous, very dangerous heart attack, as I also had heart pains. That happened because I was injected by force. I was compelled to take pills which were bigger than those seen at other patients, and I was never noisy. I was never violent, although they forced me to take them. They lied about me skipping the medicine, but in any case, I wouldn't be. I shouldn't have been subjected to taking such pills, as I was quiet, I was normal, I never had such symptoms, I never did anything that a mental patient does. I only waited and attempted to talk my way through it because I knew I was mentally sane, and I'm still mentally sane. They assumed that once I would be finding that I have cancer, I would go berserk. That is wrong. That it's a wrong assumption. Such assumptions don't have places for the persons in such positions as the doctors. So they have to compensate me, and most likely they should have their reputation damaged, because that shouldn't have its place where they find themselves. As I said, the doctor mocked me. I had the eyes rolling down in the back of my head while I talked with the doctor. The doctor is named Stan. If I remember clearly, it is Stan Nicolae. He also had another name. Stan Marian Nicolae, as far as I can remember, if I'm not wrong. He was at the mental hospital named Spitalul Sfânta Maria. Spitalul is the term for a hospital. The hospital named Sfânta Maria in the Vedea village. I committed a mistake in the application. I mentioned Vedea as a county. I wanted to say a countryside, a village. So I don't know if that was used interchangeably in the past, but it is a village. That's where I was forced to take medicine and be injected, so most likely I was also injected with air, leading to a cardiac affliction, a very dangerous episode, a heart attack most likely. I remember not controlling the movement of my eyes. They were continuously rising, rolling down in the back of my head. I had pains, I couldn't see clearly, and the doctor mocked me. I sat and discussed with him throughout all of my heart attack. This is unbelievable. This shows the corruption in this country, and until now, and maybe even for a longer period, the corruption in all of this area. As I said, and he mocked me, I was eventually so-called discharged they claimed that someone's insistencies, and they claimed that they were doing me a favor, as if I deserved to be in there. There was an abuse. Once I returned, I failed to find my money. As I said, my father would be waiting for me to die. He would I remember calling him, and he was just refusing to send me the money. He came up with bad terms he gave me eventually a part of the money that disappeared from my room only after 2 weeks, even more if I can remember. And he was also very violent at the phone. His wife, a prostitute, Georgina, had pornographic pictures of her sexual acts while she was more older than 60 years. While she was more than 60 years old, she had pornographic pictures of depicting her sexual acts with her husband. And those were very, very weird, and they were very strange, not in the terms that I haven't seen a nude picture. Those are seen even by mistake, but they are crazy. They made so abnormal gestures and faces that anyone would assume they are crazy. So this is another major abuse. This is another case of malpractice. I saw the advertisements of regarding the ECHR alleging that the ECHR compensated the victims, the partners, which were killed by malpractices, with around 60,000 euros, which is about 50,000 pounds, British pounds. So I suffered from 2 cases of malpractice. And that's not all. As I said, I was poisoned. I was forced to eat to eat what they cooked and drink anything they offered me. They poisoned them very, very easily. They preferred to cook whenever I was alone, and they hated me. They became violent if I were assisting them while they cooked. So they wanted to poison me. Those are major reasons. They had foul tastes, and as I said, I remember vomiting violently when I was a kid after she forced me to eat a cake with fresh cream and other things that could hide such filthy secretions, maybe sexual secretions, I don't know. The HPV is sexually transmitted, and that causes oral cancer in the first place, and cervical cancer. I went to numerous doctors that can be counted, innumerable doctors, and they all laughed about it. They all mocked me. They all were violent. They screamed at me and refused to have me undergoing medical exams and such things, only to prove that I had cancer, and they lied about it. It was seen on the first IRM, the first CT, and they lied about them being macrocilies. The macrocilies are holding purulent, I don't know if that is the right term, are holding fester. He was lying. Those were not macrocilies, those were cancerous cells, and I have so many of them, and I've been having them ever since I was a kid, so it is only their fault. They were not punished because of it, and as I said, I'm not a criminal. I was never a criminal, and I won't be a criminal. I'm not taking drugs. I never took drugs willingly, and even if it happened by mistake, because I was also poisoned, that's other form of poisoning, those were not so strong, assumingly. But as I talked about my brother poisoning me through that synthetic drug-laced, those synthetic drugs-laced cigarettes, he also gave me a pill after. And as I was so confused, as I said, I suffered a heart attack. I remember fainting completely and having hallucinations. My heart felt damaged after, and I had the following days I had the symptoms of that follow heart attack. So it was very likely a heart attack that I suffered in that night. It is not my fault, as I refused. I clearly remember asking him firmly if those contain such dangerous substances. He assured me multiple times that they didn't, and so he lied. Iunian is his name. I will show also a picture of him, as I don't have any at hand. I will show one later. But as I claimed, they tried to kill me all of these years. And I do not agree with any life insurance on my name if that implies a profit for anyone except me. I never signed such thing. I was defrauded by many persons. And as I said, I had so many CTs done. In fact, I don't want to exaggerate, but those were a couple. And I also did a couple of IRMs. So that is enough for the lifetime of a young adult. None of the doctors that interpreted them or that recommended me doing them, none of them ever informed me about having cancer. They only lied to me. The last doctor that I went to was had an Arabic name. This is what he said that I had. He would never he would never mention cancer, or to be more explicit, he never mentioned one of the sophisticated terms of any cancer, as those are given in order to ease one's emotions, mental state. But these are even more abstract than the conventional terms. So this was cancer. None of the doctors that I contacted ever mentioned cancer. This doctor with the Arabic name, he was called Hassan Mazri. This is a clinic in Bucharest, in the city of Bucharest. That is the capital city. We are not talking about a somehow small city as Pitești, the neighboring city of my hometown. We are talking about the most developed city, the capital. And they also lied, assuming that they would profit off of it is not to be condemned. I don't think that's a mistake. As I said, this is the name of the doctor, Dr. Hassan Mazri. And these are pointing to cancer. If I'm starting translating as I by myself found out that I have cancer, and I've been having for so many times, no one said that, but that is the truth. That is true because I researched so much the subject, and that is the only cause. I have so many reasons and so many proofs that none can deny it. These are basically pointing to cancer. All of these lines are screaming cancer, cancer. I have cancer on the sinuses of my nose. As it can be seen, those are drawing cells, those deprived the surrounding tissues of cells, and that can also be seen as I have those at the middle of my nose. The area looks swollen because those have formed there also, and I also have them on the throat, and have that look as if they are scattered around, even below on the other organs, the distant organs. And I think all of the medical exams came up warning of dangerous conditions, of pathologies, abnormal things, but none of the doctors ever talked about it, ever said to me that I had cancer and I've been having cancer or anything like that. They would lie to me consistently, and I underwent so many exams, and I had blood um, um, taken so many times that I forgot. I cannot remember for no reason. They only took me a lot of money. They cost me more than 5,000 euros. And the fact that a corrupt policeman allowed these oppressors, my family members, to live in this house and commit abuses regarding me only made me spend another a like sum, about another 5,000 euros. But this is, I'm talking about important cases of malpractice. As I said, a case of malpractice involving one's partner was compensated with more than 50,000 euros. So why not two of them be compensated even better? And as I'm waiting, I only see the corruption intensifies. I have much more reasons to affirm this. I have much more proofs about anything, and I will now show the pictures of those in question, if those can be seen, as I cannot change the camera, so I must stick to the same I did as of now, and try to show the pictures of the doctors. Some of them, actually just only one, as the last doctor was recommending me to undergo other dubious surgery, one that was supposed to have my nose, I forgot, a septoplasty. So the last procedure advertised to me was a septoplasty, when in fact I only have cancerous cells in that area which are causing the swellings. So he wanted to fix the side effects, not the real disease. That would be a sweet assumption. Maybe he also wanted to attempt to kill me, as he also insisted so much, emphasized the importance of performing the surgery only under the general anesthesia. So that is the first option when attempting malpractice. Going as far as to claim that he had this intention wouldn't be too daring, and wouldn't be a dangerous assumption, because they tried it in the past, and that is highly suspicious. Many septoplasties are done using local anesthesia while risking further when that is a fairly simple procedure. That is my reason to affirm that. As I said, I have been stalked by so many persons for so many years that it is unbelievable. It only points to an unbelievable corruption. Even today I saw another police crew stopping by just to stare at me when I haven't done anything wrong. So they did that also in the past, and I will talk also about the abuses I suffered, the violations I suffered after I rented some properties. After being, I will show the pictures later. I want to clarify and detail other events that are violations of the articles mentioned in the convention of the court. After I returned from the hospital and my health state degraded at a faster rate than prior to the hospitalization, I rented a property, a room in a house. I did the documents, I signed them, and I paid at a supposedly official agency. Its name is Communal Agency. It's a real estate agency, obviously. And the agent, I have the document right here. This is meant to be lengthening of the contract, an additional document created for the initial document that I'm missing. This is the name of the person. But the Ion, his name, I'm not willing to disclose personal data, but I will do it now. Much easier. That is his name, Barayon. He's a man with dark hair, approximately in his 40s. He has toothbrush, mustache. And that is the address. Is in the hometown. It was a room at the. This is the date. A room in a house, and they attempted to trespass. They tried to damage the door. They hit the windows. They hit the walls surrounding the room. They tried to enter. They were armed. They stalked me. They were sneaking near my room door, and each night they stared at me. They would be passing by my window each time to stare. I'm not talking about same persons, various persons, but in fact I also remember encountering the same incidents. And my family is also to blame because of those, but those events also involved more persons. And the policemen were some of them. Police crews passed by and stared at me. They were supposedly extorting me, threatening me. That's what they tried to do. So I failed to receive a part of the money back after they attempted so many times to kill me, as they were armed and tried to enter by force in the room at night, all of the night. But I was awake. That kept them away. They sneaked and they heard. They were armed. I saw them, and they also sneaked past my windows, the windows of the room at the level they had access to, because there were some that they wouldn't have access to. So they stalked me. They also threatened me without any reason. They also insulted me, and they wanted to attack me. As I said, they hit the window. They hit the cables that were installed at my request. They hit me with a football ball. Soccer ball, football, whatever that's called. And that happened for no reason. As I said, I was stalked at an unbelievable level. That was unbelievable. It only points to the immense corruption. So my mother most likely hit me while I was sleeping. She also made up stories about being hit by a playmate in the nose. That is not true. I was most likely hit by her in my sleep. That's why I was bleeding so much. As I said, I woke up covered in blood, bleeding through my nostrils for no apparent reason. It happened in a room. She also insisted on sleeping. She almost obliged me. She almost forced me to sleep in other room, one that she would have access. She would facilitate her trespassing. And she entered while I was sleeping in the other room, the room of my younger brother, Cristian, which is also a criminal, a petty criminal, which should be convicted along all of the members of my family. That happened in his room. So she entered most likely when I was sleeping, and I woke up full of blood, covered in blood, with the sheets covered in blood, bleeding through my nostrils, and have that itchy feeling. Had those itches, and that was poisoned. So many times she liked to cook pastry with milk so she could better disguise the filthy secretions that she placed into. She laced all of the foods like that, and she boiled them so none could feel their tastes, their foul tastes. That's why she did this. She also put chemicals in there. I'm sure of that. Aside from the filthy sexual secretions, and I was stalked by prostitutes. Most likely, they also put their secretions in there, as she is also a prostitute, and all of the time to place the guilt on somebody else. She alleged that that she came home with food that wasn't her. It was given to her by many females. I always refused to eat that, as that seemed suspicious. But she didn't resort to poisoning only the dishes that she cooked. She also poisoned my water bottles, as I said. I left them in the room, but the room door was not locked in the past. They wasn't locking it in the past. So they kept poisoning me for so many days, and I saw traces of urine in some bottles. That is only their fault, as they came home with other criminals also, some of them even convicted. And as I said, the police is corrupt. The policemen are so corrupt. Even today, they came past this window, the window of my room, and they also stared at me again. So this is unbelievable. I will continue, if I'm not allowed to do so in the same video, for the same video, but I will try to show pictures of the Dr. Robert Rob from the Muntenia Medical Hospital. This is the fraudulent doctor. He would have to compensate me, or the hospital, the brand itself, should compensate me a big sum for what I've been through, and he's not the only person to be accused of malpractice. I also said the parents can be accused of causing my fatal disease, terrorizing me, and raping me, and so many other things. As I said, drugging me. As I said, the policemen also are part of the government. Somebody has to take the blame for them. Such kind of violations are to be paid enormously. Such mistakes, when the mistakes involve components of the government, those have to be fast compensated in order to avoid further damaging of the government's reputation. That is a normal assumption. That is an important offense. I will try to show the doctor. As I said, that surgery was only an attempt to kill me, and my younger brother also assisted me to that visit, the visit prior to the surgery itself. I will show the doctor. He is that doctor. He is Robert Rob. As I said, he works for the Muntenia Medical Hospital. That is in Pitești. as I said. I have proof that he works for that hospital. I don't have pictures of the policeman that unrightfully hospitalized me and entered without the warrant issued, searched the room without the warrant issued, and retained items for no solid reason. They haven't found, they failed to find anything damaging any illegal item because I'm not a criminal, luckily, and but they have to pay for that violation, especially because it resulted in a heart attack and in the worsening of my condition, my existing condition. I said that I had cancer. I said to them, and they still hospitalized me. And they lied that I agreed with it. They compelled me to sign that I agreed with the forced hospitalization. They threatened me. And the doctor, as I said, mocked me when I had a heart attack going on. When I had the eyes rolling down the back of my head, he ironically asked me what was I seeing, as if I had that symptom because of mental pathology. That was a very, very bad assumption. I could have been dead because of his wrong assumptions. He needs to pay, obviously, as that hospital is supervised by the government, or the government is supposed to manage it and do it along the staff. I can back my claim. This is about the doctor, that he works for this hospital. This is the hospital. I do not have the original documents that are backing up my claim about the forced hospitalization at the mental hospital. I sent them to the ECHR. I sent my application along all of the important documents. But I was forced to sign that. I never agreed. I was never violent. I never did anything abnormal. So they simply hospitalized me just to get the money from my room and to harm me, as that was the wish of my parents, which are mentally ill, but unfortunately had the chance to work. I don't know if that happened, if that took place legally. I know for sure that those weren't taking place. Their activities weren't legal many times, but I don't know if those that they relied upon were doing legal, were accepted by the current laws. So they have to pay. I also failed to talk about how I was injected when I was a kid. My father injected me by force. He claimed that I was ill, but I wasn't. So he most likely used contaminated needles. So that's another thing. That's another thing that caused me the HPV cancer, the HPV-led cancer. He aside from being beaten with big wooden items, with big clubs, for no reason, as I said, that happened for no reason. I was brutally beaten with a big wooden club by him for no reason. Aside from those, as I said, I was injected with most likely contaminated needles by him. He pretended that I was ill, that I had a disease. It wasn't true. I was another time hospitalized by force when I was 10. I was hospitalized by force on the grounds of being ill, but I never had any symptom. I only had a minor headache, so minor but I wasn't ill in any way. And he tried to, he claimed all of the time that I was ill and that I needed to be hospitalized. While hospitalized at a county hospital in the city of Pitești, in the neighboring city, as I said, but at a different clinic, one that is supervised by the government, the county hospital. If I'm trying harder to, if I'm paying much attention to it, I can point its location. And Dr. Zoana, or Zoana, if I'm not wrong, was a female, an older female, a blonde older female, and not weighing too much. She signed, as I remember, the papers, and I was injected by force also, without even having a cold. And it happened like that. And those injections were so painful, I still remember them. I couldn't feel my feet from the hips below because of them. So I returned feeling even worse, of course, because that was the intent. That was at the base of the hospitalization. That was the reason at the core of that illegitimate action. That was the main reason they hospitalized me, so they could further damage my health. And I will show other proofs if the need arises. I will supply even more. Aside from that, as I said, I never had close friends, and I'm lacking such connections even more now. Now I'm lacking completely. I don't have anyone that I'm sympathizing. My life resorts only to completely cold interactions. I only work and spend money legally, and that's how I plan to live the rest of my life. So anyone talking, using my name for in order to benefit others, or doing something that is not benefiting me, is dismissed by me automatically. A lot of persons lie. So my family members are the main suspects, and they have to be accused, they have to be convicted, as I'm dying because of them. And I haven't done them any wrong, at least not such things that would cause me to go through this. And they hated me, especially my parents. They directed the anger of my brothers towards me, the anger. They directed it, but they also hated me so much. For no apparent reason, they are mentally ill. My older brother, as I said, Ionel Jr., is a drug addict. Is also a criminal. Cristian is also my younger brother, is also a criminal, and an alcoholic criminal. So if there's need for much proof, I can supply it. Those have to be compensated. Those violations have to be compensated with a big sum according to the law. I'm not a criminal. I was never a criminal, and I won't be one. So the law has to be applied in my case. I missed showing other pictures that also prove what I said, are backing what I said. I claimed my father is a pedophile. He raped me. We can take a look at this picture. He immortalized what he liked doing the most, what he enjoyed. This is pretty much suggestive, and a lot of persons say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. My mother was shocked for no apparent reason in this picture. There was only playing. Why would she look like this? She looks so cunning, hiding so many things. She has to be punished. She was in the companion of many felonious persons, especially women, but not only. And he attempted to have me kidnapped. I remember clearly that. And she all of the time she scared me. She claimed that invisible devils were flying in the room, things that were meant to scare me. She also wanted me to commit suicide. I always refused. She lied about me. As I said, she poisoned me so many times. I have proof. And she was so evil. When she cooked, she was cursing me all of the time. And she did so many wrong things. As I said, there are 2 pictures of my mother, 2 cut pictures of my mother holding me. This also lacks her face, because she was crying. Why would she cry? She was only holding me. She knew and remembered what she did to me along with her husband. In this one, her lips can be seen and she looks as if she was crying. That's how she smiled when she was crying. As I said, when I was after leaving the room as Badayon, I'm talking now about the violation suffered at the rented room. After leaving from there, he lied to me about returning my money. He never returned the sum, as she actually evacuated me just because he felt like it. He wanted to evacuate me. I signed after being he obliged me. He required me to sign. He put this condition to sign a paper that I agreed with seizing the contract, but he failed to return me the sum I paid in advance for an entire month. The month only started, and after I gave him the money for all of it, he evacuated me. I rented an apartment through a real estate agency, which can actually be seen even from my window. It is the house. This is the pennies market, and right in front there's this facing the market is a hair salon, and near the hair salon, in the same backyard, in the same spot, there's a house which serves the purpose of a real estate agency. So she's neighboring women. The women called Olteanu Ecaterina signed the papers along with a supposed owner, which was called Viorica. She was most likely a prostitute, as she addressed inappropriately all throughout our conversations, which I insisted to be only of professional nature. I can show her house, the house of Olteanu Ecaterina, where the fraudulent documents were signed, as I was evacuated by force. Now, I wasn't from the house in which I stayed prior to the renting of the apartment. I was evacuated after being called, but this time I was only harassed. I had video recorded criminals that tried to break through the door using force for no reason, for no solid reason. They lied most likely that I was tolerated, but I paid anything that I had to. She was most likely a prostitute, and I had many recordings of them lying and doing things that trying to compromise me. This is the house that serves the purpose of a real estate agency in which he was defrauded. And I have the recordings from that day in which I signed the documents. Those have high quality. The audio is of high quality, and anything can be heard clearly. And they made remarks, the prostitutes, Olteanu, Ecaterina, and the prostitute, Viorica, made remarks about me being most likely in what was supposed to be the future defrauded. They made remarks about me being on the verge of being defrauded again, because she had some debts at the utility bills, at the utility companies, and that remark can be clearly heard. I will show again the area. This is where I lived for most of my life. This is where most of the citizens stalked me, stopped the cars just to stare at me for so many months and even more years. That is the house. That which is next to the penny market, near the salon, that is on the same direction as the salon, in the same spot, neighboring to the salon. The salon is that which is the one with the lower level, and the house which serves the purpose of a real estate agency is the taller building. Both are very close to the pennies market. So they entered by force. They tried to harm me, as I also have recordings. I was threatened, insulted, and they tried to smash the door, to whip the door, the entrance door. They also failed to return the money I paid in advance as warranty. Those are the equivalent of more than $150. This only points to an unbelievable corruption. I have much more violations to detail, to talk in depth about, and I have to be compensated. I waited. It has been more than a month ever since I sent the application describing many of the major violations to the European Court of Human Rights in France. And I called back a few weeks ago, if I remember, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I only received an incomplete number to check the status of my application. I have much more abuses to detail, and I will be doing it soon enough. But I want anyone to see this, as it is unbelievable. The corruption in Romania is unbelievable. I am Constantinescu Cornelius. I can show my identity, I can prove it, and I will do so. to avoid any petty argument as those I encountered in the past. I will show my identity card. I don't want to disclose my personal data, so I have to be careful enough. This is me. I will also show my name on it. It was shot a few years back, if I can remember clearly. I will try to show only my name. I don't know if that is possible. I will try to show it more carefully by placing something on the data. So there will be no doubt about my identity. Some family members can be heard in the background. They have to be convicted for the violations they committed. Now I can prove my identity. This is my identity card. Can be clearly seen. I can show my name clearly. It will be better shown now. I hope it was clearer now. I don't have anything to hide. I'm not. I can be accused of real felonies, real crimes. So I will again show my identity card. There's my name. So I proved my identity. I can also talk about other important violations, but I haven't been compensated a single cent, and I'm not begging as the law implies being compensated.